create a new reality. I close my eyes and I will be there. I will dream it. Okay, in Design Matters, which I really listened with a lot of actually fun. With Debbie Millman, you said, when in doubt, look for the fear inside yourself, in that boss that does not like you. Fear underlies so much of how human beings behave. And in the practice, you write that we will never work for someone that treats us like we treat ourselves. So actually, two questions from this. Why are we treating ourselves really harshly? Plus, how can we treat our own boss, ourselves, much better than we used to, or than we still maybe do?
So let's use an image from American movies. If your partner gets shot and is sitting there like with blood coming out of their shoulder and they say something nasty to you, you say, well, it's okay because they just got shot. Right? Like, I understand this person is in pain right now. They're allowed to be screaming and yelling. It's just as painful to be paralyzed by fear. It's just as painful to feel like you're drowning. It's just as painful to be deeply worried and filled with anxiety about something. So when an outside person is undermining your work, is being brittle or abusive, there's no excuse for it, but the explanation for it is that they're afraid. And if you're going to work with them, it helps to look for the fear. Mm-hmm. And a great way to practice this is with 4-year-olds or 6-year-olds or 8-year-olds, because they are much more transparent. And if you can work with their fear, you quickly discover that the rest of their behavior changes. And the same thing is true for the brittle boss or the narcissistic colleague or friend. Mm-hmm. And the same thing is true for the voice in our head, that the reason it is busy being cruel to you, waking you up in the middle of the night to make you do your work again, the one that tells you not to reach for something, the one that insults you, well, your inner voice is doing that because it's afraid. Look for the fear. And when we think about a diva, at La Scala in the opera, or a diva who is having a tantrum on television, mm-hmm. Divas are divas because they're afraid and they're trying to control things that are uncontrollable. I don't know if you've heard of the cosmetics company Revlon, but Revlon used to be headquartered about 5 miles from here. And the guy who ran it was named Charles Revson. And Charles Revson was a diva. Charles Revson was very difficult. And what he would do is, back before digital, when you printed billboards and bus shelter ads and stuff, they had to adjust the ink by hand that was coming out of the printer. And so he would go to the press proof to make sure that the skin tones that they were printing out were just the way he wanted them to be. And it's very expensive to do this adjustment by hand because you're wasting all this paper and everything. It's going very fast. And every time he came, he would sit there for 45 minutes, an hour, making them do it again and again and again, rushing back with this thing and this thing until he'd say, yeah, now you finally got it. So one time they saved the very first one that they showed him. Yeah. And after he had rejected 30 versions, they brought him back the first one. And he said, that's it. It's perfect. What that was Charles Revson trying to control the uncontrollable. What that was Charles Revson acting like a diva because he thought that's what made him successful. And it actually isn't what made him successful. It was keeping him from being successful. And if we can see where the fear is, it's way easier to dance with it.
Seeing where the fear is, it's easy to dance with it then. Okay.